Welcome, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, honorable speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Pavilion, Indonesia. We are extremely honored to have some high-profile figure in our pavilion today. To start with, I humbly invite the CEO of International Hydropower Association, Eddie Rich, to lead the session. Why don't we have a huge appreciation for Eddie? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, many thanks. Is this working? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, many thanks. I'm absolutely honored to be here because it's, you know this, this is exactly 1 month to the day since the Bali Statement was adopted in the World Hydropower Congress, which we were delighted to co-host with the government of Indonesia and ESDM and PLN, the Indonesian state utility. And it was a tremendous event where this statement was adopted by many of the speakers you will hear today and by His Excellency President Joko Widodo, President of the Republic of Indonesia, also by Tan Sri Aban Johari Opang, the Premier of Sarawak, and 1,000 other people. So, that's what we're going to discuss today. The Bali Statement on Powering Sustainable Growth. And its very key message, the central message of this is all around this huge, vast complex that we've been walking around for the last 3 days, we are discussing the road to net zero and climate change. That's absolutely essential. It's essential. There's not a more important topic out there that we are discussing. But we must not forget that that should also be about delivering growth, delivering sustainable development. And so that is the question. How can we ensure that we are on track to net zero and also ensure that this is a method, a process, a pathway which will ensure livelihoods? So the central line of the Powering Sustainable Growth Bali Statement is there. The Industrial Revolution was powered by water. Water, wind and sun together will power the sustainable growth of the future. Water, wind and sun gets the job done. So, with that, I am very, very honored to introduce the man who was central to delivery of the whole Bali World Hydropower Congress. I should say, in parenthesis, of course, one of the reasons we wanted to work with the government of Indonesia is because this government embodies that concept, renewables-based industrial growth. So with that, Honourable Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources for Indonesia, Arifin Tasrif, please welcome to the stage.
Excellency Dalar Juma, Minister of Energy and Water Resources of the Republic of Tajikistan. Honorable Mr. Malcolm Turnbull, President of International Hydropower Association. Honorable CEO and participants on this Powering Sustainable Growth, which is a Hydropower Conference. Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to welcome you all to the Indonesian Pavilion in the COP28, Dubai. It is a great pleasure to be here together with high-level stakeholders from various countries and backgrounds who share deep concern for the sustainable development of hydropower. My highest appreciation to the International Hydropower Association for co-organizing this session following the successful convention of World Hydropower Congress 2023 in Bali last October. The event had issued the Bali Statement on powering sustainable growth, reaffirming sustainable hydropower as the backbone of national strategies to build low-carbon economies, acknowledging that most of the untapped hydropower potential that remains today is in developing countries. The Bali Statement provides 4 recommendations to the governments around the world to align their policies by, first, planning for future energy needs with more variable of renewables. Second, incentivizing sustainable hydropower developments through financial and market-based mechanisms. Third, accelerating the development of renewables through transparent and efficient permitting and licensing process. And the fourth, incorporating hydropower sustainability practices into government regulations and financial sector obligations. Hydropower has played an important role in energy system worldwide in line with the Paris Agreement commitment. IEA in the COP27 stated that hydropower also prevents the emission of about 3 gigatons of CO2 per year, which represents about 9% of global annual CO2 emissions. In Indonesia, hydropower has contributed significantly to the provision of affordable electricity access, while strengthening water management and conserving catchment area in the country energy system over the past century. We have a potential in our country more than 90 gigawatts of hydropower. Meanwhile, we utilize only 7% of it. It's only 7 gigawatts. Echoing the Bali Statement, Indonesia is looking forward to strengthen collaboration and partnership in tapping these large potentials, not only limited to the hydropower resources, but also 90 gigawatt untapped potential coming from the surface area of reservoirs that can also be utilized for floating solar power. Just last month, Indonesia launched the largest floating solar power in Southeast Asia. With a capacity of 192 megawatt peak, the floating solar has been built on a 200-hectare reservoir that has 1 gigawatt hydropower capacity. In addition to that, to mention another example, currently Indonesia is also developing pump storage facility with total capacity of 4 times 260 megawatt in Upper Cisokan, West Java. Thank you for the World Bank in supporting this project. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we all have the same hope and vision here to generate clean electricity, enhance grid stability, and contribute to shaping a sustainable energy future for generations to come through hydropower development. To conclude, please allow me to call on various global parties to foster inclusive collaboration on hydropower development This way, we can ensure that we have the energy to power sustainable growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Many of the participants at the World Hydropower Congress had the honour and the opportunity to go to see the Shirata project, which was the floating solar, this enormous floating solar project on Java that the Minister referred to. Next, I'd like to turn to another part of the world, to Central Asia, to the country of Tajikistan, and we have Honourable Minister Dala Juma, the Minister for Energy and Water Resources, and he will speak a little bit about the Tajik plans for creating sort of a superpower for natural green energy within the region. Please, Minister.
Excellency Arifin Tasrif, Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources of Indonesia, Honorable Malcolm Turnbull, President of the International Hydropower Associations, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and the friends of the sustainable hydropower. It is indeed still the memories from the World Hydropower Congress in Bali is very fresh for all of us, and I again take the opportunities to express my high appreciations for the great hospitality of the government of Indonesia, but also congratulating once again with such a successful Congress, both the government of Indonesia and the International Hydropower Association. Also, thank you for inviting me to speak in this session. Let me start by saying that Tajikistan has a negligible contribution to global greenhouse gas emission, yet we are one of the most highly vulnerable nations to the impact of climate change. Again, Eddie was talking about that we can do the industrial relations by water, and it's very close and it's very nature to Tajikistan that we are the country where the 19% of the energy mix coming from the hydropower, and we are close to make it 100%. We are a double landlocked nation with the towering mountains dominating over 93% of our land mass. Our economy depends on natural resources and climate-sensitive sectors like agriculture, which leaves us more vulnerable to the devastating impact of climate change. As climate-related disasters have become more frequent, intense, and unpredictable in recent years, the future development of our nation and those of the region of Central Asia remains at grave peril. But there's a hope, which is Tajikistan's vast water resources. If fully developed and their full potential realized, we will be able to supply more than enough energy to meet our needs and those of Central and South Asian nations with a minimal or no impact on the environment. Tajikistan's annual potential of hydropower resources is estimated at 527 billion kilowatt hours, which exceed by more than almost 1.5 times of the current needs of all countries of the Central Asian regions. However, as my counterpart, Mr. Tasrin, was saying, only around 5% of the hydro potential is currently developed. Despite our meager resources, the government of Tajikistan has planned to triple the capacity of hydroelectric power plants by 2050. Please join us in this endeavor. The completion of the constructions of the Rogon hydropower plant, along which has the capacity of over 3,700 megawatts, will transform green energy generation and supply in our region. It will also contribute to the sustainable irrigation of more than 3 million hectares of land in Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, especially in dry years. This will reduce the emission of 6.2 million of tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. We are working closely with our neighboring countries to further enhance our cooperation and regional energy connectivity. We have now been finalizing power purchase agreements with Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan for exporting green energy to be produced by this hydropower plant with the annual energy output of over 14 billion kilowatt hours. The Central and South Asia project, also known as A17 project, which is currently being implemented, will connect for the first time the Central Asia and South Asia in terms of the infrastructure. It will connect Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Afghanistan and Pakistan at this stage. Once completed, the A1000 project will allow us to transfer our access environmentally friendly electricity through the territory of Afghanistan to Pakistan. The implementation of A1000 project will further reduce the greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere by 2.2 million tons. Tajikistan, being an upstream nation, our hydropower facilities make a significant contribution to solving water and energy issues and enabling climate sustainability not only in our country but also in our neighboring countries in Central Asia. But to realize Tajikistan's full hydropower potential, to reduce vulnerability and to increase resilience in Central and South Asia in the face of growing impact of climate change, we welcome partnership with the development and private sector partners. I think we could together build on these hydro potentials, in this case in Central Asia and with the water potentials of Tajikistan. I think the same true is for Indonesia, and make those regions much, much greener. I hope today's session will provide an opportunity to discuss best practices and policies in hydropower and the important role of the Bali Hydropower Statement in addressing issues of energy, climate change, adaptation, and sustainable developments. And all these key points, messages are integral part of our power sector development strategy, so we live this. It's not just a statement as such. I also hope today's session will provide an opportunity to explore development of existing clean energy potentials to save our planet and to secure a legacy of hope and resilience for our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. It's so exciting to hear what's happening in Central Asia, and driven by Tajikistan's hydropower potential and plans, and we should give them also acknowledgement, by the way, that they were the first country, or a project, Sebsor in Tajikistan was the first to achieve the hydropower sustainability standard earlier this year. So. Minister, I think I heard you say yesterday that you will apply the standard to all the projects in Tajikistan, which is also to be welcomed, leading the way in sustainable development. Thank you very much. Next, I want to move on to my boss, Malcolm Turnbull, the IHA president. Before he moved on to such elevated pinnacle of his career, he was previously the Prime Minister of Australia. And in that role, amongst other great achievements, he also commissioned the Snowy Hydro 2.0, the pump storage, a huge pump storage plant in New South Wales. And so here is a man who's actually done this. who has delivered. So, Malcolm.
Eddie. Look, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you very much. Pak Arifin Tasrif, the Minister of Energy, Mineral Resources in Indonesia. Our very dear friend, the Minister for Energy from Tajikistan. And I know we've got a great panel. Pak Dama from PLN, the Indonesian National Energy Company, and Datuk Syabini, the CEO of Sarawak Energy. Anthony Lesmana, the Chief Executive of KHN, a big hydropower developer in Indonesia. And of course, keeping an eye on nature, Dr. Rachel Asante Owusu from the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. So this is a great session, and I just want to thank everyone for inviting the International Hydropower Association to be here. Look, we are passionate about hydropower. At the Bali World Congress of Hydropower, the President of Indonesia, our dear friend Jokowi, spoke with great passion about the importance of hydropower to drive economic development in Indonesia. There are 93 gigawatts of undeveloped hydropower in Indonesia, and I know that Indonesia has the determination and the energy in every sense to develop it. But you know, the world cannot get to net zero. We cannot stay within 1.5 degrees or even 2 degrees without a massive expansion in hydropower. And the reason for that is very simple. Most of our new generation today is solar and wind, and above all solar. Solar is so cheap, so quick to roll out, but of course the sun doesn't shine all the time. And the more you are reliant on intermittent renewable energy, solar and wind, the more you need dispatchable zero-emission energy, and that is hydropower. You need what we might call traditional hydropower, you know, big dams or small dams for that matter, but you need traditional hydropower, but you also need pumped hydro, because it is the only form of dispatchable energy that is zero emission at an enormous scale. Batteries are playing a big role, that is true, for shorter durations. But for the heavy lifting, for the deep storage that we are going to need now more than ever, we need hydropower. And let me just add one final point, because we want to get on to the panel, real experts. When we look at energy plans and models around the world, most of them are assuming we will get more wind and more new transmission than we are actually getting. And that is because of the expense, the planning permissions in some countries, you know, the difficulty of getting community acceptance of big wind projects and transmission projects. Solar is rolling out at a much faster rate. It's increasing globally around the world at in excess of 20% year on year. I mean, there's never been a technology that has rolled out as quickly as that. And that's fantastic, hooray. I'm particularly proud that the core technology in the PV cells was developed in Australia at the University of New South Wales. That's great news. But the problem that represents for us is that unless we get the storage in quickly, or more quickly, we're going to have very real challenges in maintaining a stable and reliable grid. So, you know, solar, if the more solar you have, the more storage you have. The more solar you have, the more hydropower you need. So this is the key. It's often neglected. You know, everyone's fascinated with the shiny new thing, whatever. You know, if you had a meeting here at COP, you know, that said that you could turn moonbeams into infinite electricity, they'd be hanging off the rafters. There'd be so many people there. But in fact, it is hydropower that's doing the heavy lifting, and now, and above all, more than ever, we need it to continue to do so. I want to thank you all. I want to thank the Republic of Indonesia and its distinguished representatives here today, above all, for the leadership, both within their own archipelago and in our region and in the world, that they're showing with their environmental commitment to sustainable hydropower, along, in tune with the Bali Statement that we're also proud to deliver in Bali a month ago. Thank you very much.
Beautifully done. And Malcolm always gives energy to the energy debate. I think that's a very powerful message. We have the technology that we need. We just need to actually implement it. So with that, let's move on to the panel. I would like to invite up to the stage, first of all, Bapak Darmawan Prasado, the President Director of Indonesia's utility PLN. Please, Bapak. Also, a great friend and one of my board members, Datun Sharbini Suwali, CEO of the Sarawak Energy Berhad. And finally, Rachel Asante Wusu, the Senior Program Coordinator from the International Union for Conservation of Nature. So, thank you very much for joining us. And look, let me first of all, Bapak Darmo, your co-host of the World Hydropower Congress, and thank you for all your support. But tell us, you've been set a hard challenge in Indonesia, this renewable-based industrial growth. Please tell us how you're going about delivering that. Thank you.
Well, the Earth is warming and the journey of humankind is facing a very serious threat. And we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But in the same time, we need to maintain the momentum of rapid economic growth. How are we going to be able to balance between growth and environmental sustainability? The answer is this: we need to provide affordable, sustainable, green energy. And how are we going to walk the talk, right? And in the past, when we're talking about cheap energy, it was dirty. But humankind is some kind innovates. So the price of renewable energy is decreasing, because of this innovation. So today, when we're talking about cheap energy, it's clean. And that's kind of a hope how we're going to be able to move forward. For the case of Indonesia, Your Excellency Malcolm Turnbull already stating like this: we can add solar and wind, but that's what we call the variable renewable energy. How are we going to be able to maintain the stability of the system? We need to come up with the flexible generations. But again, low emissions flexible generation. We can build plenty of gas-fired power plants, and that is flexible, but that is fossil fuel and also going to induce additional greenhouse gas emissions. With the case of Indonesia, and with the Bali Statement that already released 1 month ago, there's a big hope here. The potential of hydropower in Indonesia is magnificent. But we face a very serious challenge. There is a mismatch between the location of large-scale hydropower with the epicentrum of demand. That's why there is a saying, no transition without transmissions. But there is a good news. We just completed what we call the RUKN, Rencana Umum Ketenagalistrikan Nasional Also, we are in the process of redesign the RUPTL, Rencana Usaha Penyediaan Tenaga Listrik National Electricity Planning. In it, we design and build what we call the green enabling transmission line, connecting from those large-scale hydropower in those remote areas to the center of economy, to the epicentrum of demand in such a way, with that green enabling transmission line development, then we're going to be able to add 32 gigawatt, mostly coming from hydro and some of geothermal. Applause for all of us. And the second part is this. Used to be the base load coming from coal-fired power plant is 5 until 6 cents. Used to be, 5 years ago, wind was roughly 11, 12 cents. Solar was roughly 9 until 11 cents. But today, when we're talking about base load, it's increasing because it's coming from gas, roughly 9 until 11 cents, hydro roughly 7 until 10 cents. And today, solar and wind is only 5 until 6 cents, even 4 until 6 cents. So adding solar and wind is going to reduce the overall cost of electricity. But solar and wind is intermittent, variable renewable energy. That's why in the new design, we design and build with the state-of-the-art of smart grid, flexible generations, smart transmission, smart control room, smart distributions, smart meter in such a way. Previously, we can only add 5 gigawatt of solar and wind. Now, in the future, we can add roughly 28 gigawatt of solar and wind. With the new plan, 62 gigawatt of additional capacity is coming from renewable energy. That is roughly 75% of additional capacity. And the other 25% of roughly 20 gigawatt is coming from gas-fired power plants. That is very aggressive, accelerated renewable energy development. With the business as usual by 2060, the greenhouse gas emission today is roughly 260 million metric tons. With the business as usual, it's going to increase to 660 million metric tons. With this accelerated renewable energy development, it's going to reach only 300 million metric tons. With much capacity of the coal-fired power plants is going to be retired at that time, meaning that this is going to facilitate the acceleration of the transition of energy in which the net zero emission is going to be reached by 2060 or even faster. From this, we come up with a great plan, but also we translate that into effective operation on the ground. So where do we go from here? You know, with this kind of a global warming, what we experience today, our future is defined either by environmental catastrophe or green revolutions. But humankind, we always innovate for one purpose of all, to reclaim of humankind's right to survive. For PLN here, used to be our main job was only to provide electricity, but today our main job is to take care of the environment while electricity is our byproduct. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Damo. That's a stirring speech and also some really very impressive figures under of Sarawak is part of Malaysia and Sharbini, you run the utility there, the big company building a lot of hydropower in a very interesting and challenging environment. So please, what are the plans?
Thank you, Eddie, and thank you very much for inviting us to discuss about the role of sustainable hydropower in driving the economic sustainable growth for the communities and also the countries. And you know, I think we are in a very critical decade for climate actions, yeah. And we know that the scale and speed of the global transition is not in line with, and we know that the scale and speed of the global transition is not in line with the COP21 agreement. And so I believe that the time for action is now. Whatever pledge we have for net zero, whatever net zero pledge we have, we must be accompanied with real action. Yeah, and this way we in Sarawak have been, working for the last 2 decades. In fact, I've always mentioned that we made a strategic shift towards hydropower in the mid-80s and accelerated in the 2010s. And so we have actually helped Sarawak transition from a 92% hydrocarbons in our generation mix in 2010 to 70% renewable hydropower in 2015. And as a result, we are able to meet the COP21 2 degrees Celsius target in 2015, way before 2030 target. And we have been working to bring that down further to 1.5 degrees centigrade. In fact, we are the first corporate body in Malaysia to pledge this 1.5 degrees centigrade business ambition based on a science-based target. And I'm happy to report that on the 8th of November this year, SBTI confirmed that we have achieved that. So we have actually been bringing our carbon grid emission intensity from down by 73% from 2009 to 2021. And we are helping Malaysia to meet their COP21 target as well. And so the next thing for us is, we are, as I said, sitting in a very good place. We have a lot of network of rivers. We have abundant rainfall. We have the ideal condition for both hydro project and as well floating solar, which we are going to install on our big and huge water bodies surrounding the hydro projects. And what we want to do is, we want to share what we have with our neighbors. So we have been working on this Borneo grid where we have started exporting power to West Kalimantan in 2016. Next year we are expecting to Sabah, and we're talking to Brunei, and we are in a very advanced stage of talking to Singapore in terms of exporting 1,000 megawatt of renewable energy to Singapore and help them to actually meet their energy transition target. So our objective is as well, we want to ensure that we have transition to a low carbon economy, but there's no point in just having us alone to transition. We want the whole region to transition as well. And we believe that hydropower, renewable hydropower will be the basis of that. And I mentioned yesterday that at the Bali World Hydropower Congress, there was a consensus that hydropower is the must-have solution or the backbone to power sustainable growth and for climate action. And I'm really like to echo the Bali Statement, where we said that sustainable growth would be powered by water, wind, and solar resources. And we in Sarawak, we have believed that for a long time. That's why we've embarked on this journey to transition our energy generation mix to hydro, and now we're going to floating solar as well. And I've mentioned many times that floating solar and hydro is a very good combination because the hydro plant itself is a natural battery. So during the daytime, we will dispatch the solar, and in Southeast Asia, solar only work for 3-4 hours a day, and then we will then store the water behind the dam, and when the sun sets, we will use the water from the dam to generate power. So it is a natural combination, and we are very excited about that. We are having our first project coming on stream next year, and then we're going to expand it, and we're going to install it in all of our hydro lakes. Our Bakun Lake itself is as big as Singapore Island. So we can have a lot of floating solar there. And with that, with the batteries, we believe that Sarawak or Borneo, for that matter, we can be the battery of ASEAN. Thank you very much.
Fantastic ambition. There we go, battery of ASEAN, not only building capacity, but also building regional cooperation, and it's great to see Malaysia and Indonesia on the stage together on this. And let me now turn to Rachel. An important part of all of this, has been mentioned by all the speakers actually, is we can't just build and let rip. This has to be done with the future in mind, with nature in mind, and enhancing nature at the same time as we build. Tell us about that.
So thank you very much. And first of all, let me thank you for the honor of participating here with your excellencies. I also got to meet my hero, Martin Turnbull, who then stole half my notes that I was going to talk about solar, but never mind. I think if there's one message that I would like to bring to this event, it's that it's not just the question of we need to tackle the climate and the biodiversity crisis. The real issue is we don't tackle the biodiversity crisis without healthy ecosystems. So if we don't have healthy ecosystems, we can build as much solar, as much hydro, as much wind as we want, but we will not tackle the climate crisis. So in IUCN, my remit is around renewables, so I lead the global program on wind and on solar. So I'm additionally happy to be here because I recognize the role that hydro has in supporting solar and in supporting wind, and I would add that it's not just about providing energy when wind and solar aren't able to. It's also about being able to control and respond to peak demand, which is going to be very, very important when we talk about cities around the world like Lagos and so ever. I'm going to come on to sustainability. Just give me 1 minute because I want to talk about the grids. From the conservation perspective, for us, this has also been a missing link. We've spoken about solar, we've spoken about turbines, but we haven't really spoken about grids. And that's why we are now teaming with European transmission system operators to develop what we're calling a Sustainable Grid Academy, where we will be helping our state members globally to be able to develop sustainable grids, microgrids as well, be they for hydro, be they for solar, be they for wind. I think one of the real legacies of the fossil fuel era is the fact that we have tens of millions of people around the world that don't have access to energy. And along with tackling the climate and the biodiversity crisis, we also have to tackle the legacies that the fossil fuel era has left behind. And that's going to be around access. And without grids, we don't get access. And if we don't get access, we can't push the message of the climate, of the biodiversity crisis. So I just want to say that first. On sustainability, I think it's critically important that we have good practice. And that's why, as IUCN, we're so happy and honored that the hydropower sustainability standard has been reached. It's an ICL compliant standard. We know it's a robust standard. So it's something that we can be sure that good practice is being followed if companies and governments are in adherence to that. And so I'd make an extra call to the financial and investor community to really use the standard to help them identify good practice. Finally, I'd like to say that there is a need when we're developing these hydro projects or solar projects or wind projects to look at siting. So I'm very pleased with the declaration, no hydro in World Heritage sites. I think this is crucial as well for protecting our natural global World Heritage. And I would also add that maybe it's time companies started looking at making commitments around biodiversity net gain. We're talking to the renewable energy companies around how they can contribute in a meaningful way towards global nature positive goals. It would be good if we could have those discussions with the hydropower community as well, and really come at this as an inclusive renewable energy community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And look, we've run out of time, and I just want to leave us with some important messages, which I think came from our excellent panelists and the keynote speakers beforehand. You know, that point that we have to do this, and we have to do this urgently. We don't have the time to waste. We need to build, but at the same time, we need to do that conscious of our healthy ecosystems. And we in IHA, all our members have signed up. Going forward, the only acceptable hydropower is sustainable hydropower. But I want to thank our excellent panelists. I want to thank our excellent keynote speakers. I want to thank you, the audience, and leave you with this thought: water, wind, and sun gets the job done. Thank you.
Thank you.